Welcome to Aprendamos Español, our third lesson in our intermediate course. In this course, we're going to cover how to express the thought, I have done something. Like if you were to say, I have eaten, or I have spoken. That is known as the perfect tense. Then after that, we're going to talk about how to express the thought, I had done something. Like if you were to say, I had already eaten, or I had not spoken to her. That is known as the past perfect tense. And then after that, we're going to go over how to use the perfect tense and the past perfect tense when we have reflexive verbs like llamarse, or when we have direct and indirect objects. And then after that, we're going to practice. So let's get started. The perfect tense is the thought, I have done something. Like if you were to say, I have eaten, or I have spoken, or she has not said anything. Typically in English, it's pretty simple to express the perfect tense. You just take your pronoun, I, you, he, she, we, and then you put have or has, depending on who's doing it. Like it's I have, it's he has. You would not say he had or she have. And then you take your past participle. For example, you would say, I, that's a pronoun, have, and then your past participle, spoken. I have spoken. That is a perfect tense thought. Pretty straightforward. Well, guess what? In Spanish, it's a little simpler than that, because your verb for have or has conjugates based on what your pronoun is. And so your pronoun is built into what form of the verb have or has that you use. And so to express have or has in the perfect tense, we use the verb haber. Now, haber means have, but do not get confused. This is not have like I have $3 or I have a cat. This is have in the sense I have already done this. She has already eaten. See how in that sense there's no possession expressed? Tener is what you use to express possession, but to express events that happened in the past, that form of have is haber. That is the verb you use. And you conjugate haber in the present tense based on who has done the thing. Now, of course, you should already be familiar with the 6 box, the yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, and ustedes. Now, just another note, just to make sure you know that this form here is vosotros. It's spelled just like nosotros, only put a V in the front. Vosotros means y'all, informal. You use it when you're talking to a group of friends. Hey, you guys. That is the verb, that is the pronoun for this verb form here. This is mainly used in Argentina and Spain and Chile, but not in the rest of the Spanish-speaking world. And for that reason, most Spanish teachers will not teach you vosotros or any of its conjugations. I think that's dumb. People still use it, so I think it's a good idea to learn it. So let's continue. So we conjugate haber, which is the verb have or has, in the present tense to form the perfect tense. So, means I have. It's yo he, tú has. You have, informal. Él, ella, usted, ha. He or she has or you have, formal. Nosotros hemos, we have. Vosotros habéis, y'all have. And then ellos, ellas, or ustedes han. They have, or in the formal way, y'all have. Write this down and commit it to memory. It is the key to understanding the perfect tense. So now that we have the have part, what about the eaten, spoken, written, or sung part of the perfect tense? Well, we take our verb and we put it into something called the past participle. You can see that right here in English, the word spoken, that is the past participle of the verb speak. Well, in Spanish, to turn a verb into its past participle, you take your verb, and if your verb has an ER or an IR at its ending, replace those with ida. Or if your verb has an AR at its ending, replace that with ada. Let me give you an example. What if I wanted to say, I have spoken? What if I wanted to say this sentence up here, put it in Spanish? Well, we already know what our I have is. It's e. And so that's our first part. We would say e. Now what about spoken? Spoken, in Spanish, the verb to speak is hablar. So we would take the verb hablar. Now what we have to do is replace, since it's an AR verb, replace that AR with ado. And so our answer becomes he hablado. That is how you say it. What if I were to say I have eaten? You would take the I have, which is e, and then we take our verb, which is comer. Comer ends in an ER. We replace the ER with ido. He comido. I have eaten. And so that's pretty straightforward. That's how you form the perfect tense. You just take your I have, you have, he, she has, we have, y'all have, or they have verb form of haber. And then after that, you take your verb and just replace the ending with ido if it's an ER-IR verb, replace the ending with ado if it's an AR verb, and bam, there you go. Perfect tense. Now, there is a note that I want to make about the past participle because that confuses a lot of people. To keep it simple, there is a difference between the past tense and the past participle. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. We have a bunch of past tense words here. Ate, spoke, wrote, and saw. If you notice, the past tense can go right next to a pronoun and there's no issue. You can say I ate, I spoke, I wrote, or I saw. Or you can say he ate, he spoke, he wrote, or he saw. You can take a pronoun and put it right in front of the past tense. Now, with the past participle, you cannot do that. Your pronoun does not go next to your past participle. You need to put the word have in the middle. You would not say I eaten, or I spoken, or I written, or I seen. That is not how you would communicate it, unless you're Jar Jar Binks, but that's another story. You would say I have eaten, I have spoken, I have written, or I have seen. So the past participle, simply put, is what you put after the verb have. It's the form of the past tense that you cannot put right next to your pronoun. In general, your perfect tenses, all of them, use the past participle. They do not use the imperfect or the preterite right next to the pronoun when you're forming your perfect tense sentence. Or said another way, it's like this. If you're making a simple I did statement like I ate or I swam or I wrote, you just take your pronoun, put it right next to your verb, simple past tense. But if you have this have in the middle here, which is haber in Spanish, then this verb right here needs to be in the past participle form. Whatever comes after your have goes in the past participle form. Pretty straightforward. Now, like I said before, in general, to form your past participles, if it's a verb that ends in ER or IR, you just turn that into ido. But if it's a verb that ends in AR, turn the AR into ado. And I want to go over a few more examples just to make sure that we understand this. Now, let's look at the verb comer. Which means eat, and we want it in the I have form. So we're trying to say I have eaten. So you remember your I have would be e, and then you take comer, you replace the ER with ido, and it becomes he comido. I have eaten. Or what about vivir? Vivir means to live. Okay, and this is an IR verb, so we're still going to use ido. So we want it in the he has form. Well, what is the he has form of haber? That is a, if you recall from the 6 box that we drew earlier. And so you replace your IR with ido. Ha vivido. He has lived. Like if you were going to say he has lived here for 3 years. Anyway, now let's move on to escuchar. Escuchar means to listen. So we want it in the we have form. So we're trying to say we have listened. You would simply find your we have conjugation, which would be hemos. Remember, these are all from the verb haber. You would take hemos, and then you would take escuchar. It ends in AR, and so you would turn it into ado. See, AR becomes auto. Hemos escuchado. We have listened. And hablar, okay? Hablar meaning to talk or speak. And you want the they have form, so you're trying to say they have spoken. So what you would do there is you would take your form of haber, because remember, that's what the verb have is, and you would find the they version, which would just be on the they conjugation. And then you would take hablar, it ends in AR, and AR becomes auto. And an easy way to remember this is the I and IR, the I and ito, it matches. The A and AR, the A and auto, they match. An easy way to think about it. And typically ER and IR verbs are associated together in your conjugations. So it would be han hablado. They have spoken. So that's just the general idea of how to form the perfect tense. Now, of course, as with everything in Spanish, you have a lot of irregulars. And so you have some irregular past participles where it's not just as simple as replace the ER with ito or replace the AR with auto, where you actually have to turn the past participle into something completely different. Here is a general list of the irregular past participles in Spanish just to get you started and just